pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yep. Make a motion to accept the departmental reports as written.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Make a motion we approve maintenance warrants fiscal year 1682 and fiscal year 17 number 6, 7, and 8.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
We've got a couple comments from the victuals license. First one to Shadia Damon, Leiden Road in Greenfield. It's for an art festival at Red Fire Farm. Next one is Beets and Barley Catering out of Northampton for same thing. Make a motion to approve.
Second. All those in favor? Aye.
We've got some Dufresne's Park requests. First one, American Installations. It's for August 13th. I assume no police, Chief? Doesn't say. American Installations.
If there was no alcohol and there was not 1,000 people there,
I can't. I don't know what's that mean.
Somebody wrote no on there.
Oh no, okay. I couldn't.
There's a question mark on there.
With a question mark, and they wrote, okay. I didn't know if it was a question mark. Number of people 70 for a company picnic. Next one is for the Taylor Street Pavilion. 40 people, noon to 5, no alcohol on August 27th. Make a motion to approve both.
Okay, can I have a second for those two?
Oh, you second?
All those in favor? Aye.
And we have the warrant for the state primary. Has to be posted by September 1st. We have to read this.
Yes.
The warrant reads, greetings in the name of the Commonwealth, you are hereby required to notify and warn the inhabitants of said town who are qualified to vote in primaries to vote at the East Middle School at 393 East State Street in said town, precincts 1 and 2. Polling location, 393 East State Street, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Thursday, the 8th day of September. And to cast their vote for the state primaries for the candidates of political parties for the following offices. Representatives in Congress, 1st District. Councilor, 8th District. Senator in General Court, 1st Hampden in Hampshire District. Representative in General Court, 3rd Hampshire District, Precinct 1. Representative in General Court, 2nd Hampshire District, Precinct 2. And for the office of Sheriff in Hampshire County. Giving under our hands, this is the 2nd day of August 2016. Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
You're not on a ballot this year, Sheriff.
No. I had debated doing it, but chose not to.
And it's 6:35. We have a representative from the Granby Housing Authority, Mr. George Knight. You're welcome, George. Come on.
Just want to let you guys know that since you were going to the solar farm on East Street, that the housing authority is going to be going with a solar farm in Charlotte. We're going to vote on it Thursday.
Where's it going to be, George?
Charlotte.
Oh, Charlotte?
That's the one we're buying power from, too. No? Same company though, Kearsarge.
No, Blue Star.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, it's a bunch of housing authorities throughout the state. They got together. It's a good deal. So we're going to take advantage of it.
Sounds good.
Okay. That's all.
All right, thanks, George.
Thank you.
We have,
She's here from
you're here from Andre?
Yes, I am.
Come on up. A request for liquor at Dufresne Park.
Hello again.
Hey, hello.
I'm with, how are you?
These are, these are the agenda.
Here they are. Gravel pin.
No, mine.
Okay. They should be there. Okay.
Welcome.
Hello.
What's up?
It's in the folder. She's been having a couple of different stories about whether she needed a one-day permit or not a one-day permit. So we just basically asked her to come on in, and the board will make a decision tonight. We have the police chief here for his input if she's going to require anything, and just get it all taken care of so she can plan.
Chief, you had mentioned something about the hours.
I don't remember exactly the number of hours. I want to say it was roughly 7 hours. When I first saw that permit, it was 7 hours. They were requesting serve alcohol or provide alcohol, is a better way to say it, for 6 or 7 hours to 200 or 300 people. Is that
158 or 58.
No, it would be 140,
130.
so there'd be 106 adults and the rest children.
So my concern was that was a long time in a public park to have alcohol in September. So my suggestions were I thought that should be better served to make that time frame smaller, 7 hours more. And I suggested the regular Dufresne Park alcohol rules referencing the insurance. Someone's got to be responsible. And
There's a sign off on the minors, right?
there is. It should be in that. I believe it's in the Dufresne's packet. And I would suggest a police officer, depending on the numbers of the people that show up.
So just for clarity, 7 hours is the length of the event, but alcohol is going to be served for 3. And it's going to be monitored by both the owners and myself.
Do we have the liability policy?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
You should be in receipt of that.
What type of function?
Company picnic.
Company picnic?
Right.
Are you gonna be hiring bartenders?
No.
No.
So our intention is to give out tickets, 2 per adult. And I'll monitor that myself. I'm the air director for the company.
You said that. Okay. There's a sign off on that. Furnishing clause.
There should be.
Yeah, it's in there.
And the company's providing the alcohol?
Yes,
Okay.
just beer and wine.
Beer and wine?
We had talked to Eddie Ryan about that. He indicated that as long as it's not open to the public, there was no need for a one-day liquor license. But the park rules require our authorization and certain other requirements such as liability policy, a sign-off on furnishing, and officers if chief so desired.
I think one would be, in my eyes, desired in my eyes. I'd like to see a police officer there for a variety of reasons. One of them is, you can't, I know it's a company picnic and all that, but we're talking about monitoring people going out to the parking lot, consuming alcohol, coming back, and it could create a huge situation that maybe a company wouldn't want to indulge in. It's a possibility, or I would suggest we have at least one officer there. That's my,
Whatever you're comfortable with.
What
Okay.
type
We're just
of,
here to comply. I'm
what
sorry.
type, are you having any events Or is it just the picnic? I mean, is there gonna be stuff going on in other areas of the park than the pavilion?
Well, only what we're hosting are we familiar with. So we have.
No, that's what I mean, as far as you're
there's
concerned.
bounce houses. It's really geared towards family.
Okay.
So it's bounce houses. There's a pony that's going to be provided. You know, volleyball.
Would it create any problems then if we restricted the alcohol to the pavilion?
Oh, not at all. We'll comply with whatever you think is appropriate. So if you want it at the pavilion, that's fine with us.
Can I just add a couple things? I think having an area specific where the alcohol needs to be is very important. Somewhere in this agreement, it should be completely away from the parking lot, away from the playground. Very similar to what we've done for Charter Day,
Charter Day.
when there was alcohol involved in Charter Day. And just for clarity purposes, the officer that would be there, their responsibility is not to check that everybody is checking IDs. We're not a bouncer per se. No, you're not suggesting that, but I just want to make sure that, I'm sorry, I don't know your name. Barbara, and you know, the company that she represents knew that. You know, we're there for the sole purpose of making sure everything stays, you know, peaceful, and then with number of people with alcohol. It's not the officer's responsibility to make sure that every single person that's getting those tickets is of 21. Certainly, if they observe something that, you know, is illegal, they would handle it. However, it's not theirs or the town's responsibility. When you sign those rules, when you sign that furnishing law, or sign that furnishing, you're accepting, you know, the responsibility that we're providing the alcohol to these people. Where it goes from there, we're still responsible. So.
Yeah, under the furnishing law, the person in charge of the premise is responsible if minors are drinking, even if they don't give it to them.
Understood.
So
Understood.
that's why
So
we have to sign off on that.
Understood. Sir, I can understand the concern. What we've done, you know, we know what ages are going to be there, and really the whole point of having a picnic versus a traditional holiday party is to get away from the alcohol. So that's what our goal is here, in all honesty. So
Okay, I make a motion to approve subject to the officer and restricting the alcohol to the immediate.
absolutely, sure, I'd be happy to do that.
Let's second that one. All right, any more discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hold on to that. Right below it was the
Oh, in here? Yeah.
Thank you, by the way.
Thank you very much.
We have to appoint our new chief.
What else we got?
We just have SWAC and the gravel permits and that's it.
So we can get it out. Chief, when you're done.
Yes,
You have an
You're on.
appointment?
I do.
You're early. Unless we could put you at the end of the meeting if you'd rather.
Wouldn't want to mess up the schedule.
It's such an important schedule.
It is.
Zach might want to stop and see his government in action.
He might. I suggested that he should stay for the rest of the meeting. It would look really good, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, that ain't gonna happen.
I'm sure he'd be disappointed.
Cindy's is like 3 miles down the road. You got ice cream.
So I'm here tonight to present the Police Advisory Board's recommendation for a part-time position. Last week we did all the interviews, interviewed 5 candidates, and the board unanimously chose to recommend Zach Gilly for that position. Zach is Reserve Intermittent Academy trained. He's been on our auxiliaries since September of 2015, is that right? Since then, he's logged well over 300 hours of ride time. He's volunteered for just about everything that we've ever asked him to do, including being Santa Claus at a fundraiser. So he's fit in really well. He also does a lot of things in the community. He lives here, first of all. He grew up here. He coaches basketball, middle school.
Yes.
So he has a lot of connections to the community that we think are great for our officer to have, and certainly we plan to exploit those in a good way. Having different connections to the community, whether it's through the school or different civic organizations, is a great benefit to the town. So we think he's going to be a great addition to the force, and we hope that you adopt that recommendation.
Zach, you realize, of course, once you've done the role of Santa, you never lose that in the organization forever.
I know. It's between me and Sergeant O'Grady.
Yeah.
But he's a little bit more persuasive on that.
Make a motion to appoint Zach to the auxiliary.
I second
It's
that.
nice to see a resident coming on.
This will be a one-year appointment. She's on probation.
He's on probation until June 30th of 2017. Yes?
Well, if we do
Or is
the
it
year,
gonna- or is it gonna be one
Or
year?
the
Or
year.
are we gonna just do
it would be August 2nd.
August 1st?
Okay, so you're gonna do a full year, and then we're just gonna have to remember next August 1st to reappoint him.
Yeah, but I'm just asking, do you want to do the one-year probation, or did you want to do the June 30th?
I'd do it to June 30th, if he's made it that far.
I think it'd be, even if we were to do that, and I guess it would be the same thing as adding the extra, whatever, 3 months to us, let's do it.
It's only a month.
Whatever's easiest for the record-keeping purposes, I guess.
I'd go June 30th, do 11 months, and then, otherwise we're liable to forget
Give them
him
the benefit of the doubt.
until
Yeah.
Christmas time.
I'd be okay with that.
Alright. So we have a motion and a second.
I seconded it already.
Alright, you guys are good.
Yeah,
I
listen.
forgot I was getting distracted.
Alright.
Alright, all those in favor?
Aye. Zach, welcome.
Welcome, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Where should the kids send their lists?
I got a little bit lost. Thank you. Yes, thank you.
We have a bunch of gravel pit renewals. First one, Naraki Construction on 5 Lion Street. Location of Lion Street, north side of the county line.
Nice addition.
Second is Naraki Construction on 5 Lion Street. North side of Carver and east side of the former Lyman Pit. Are they right next to each other? Another one, Naraki Construction, 5 Lion Street. Location of a site is 11 Lion Street. Ondrix, 22 Industry Road in Chicopee, and the location is 240 Chicopee Street. And finally, Chartier and Orland, 232 Bachelor, and the location is 232 Bachelor. Greg Orland using the site. All have been through the proper approvals from Conservation.
Yes.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Let's do copies of each of those.
3 of each.
2 of each.
2 of each.
That's pretty exciting.
Do I do it again?
Probably not that much excitement. I've had enough for one day.
Thank you.
I'm going whitewater rafting tomorrow, so I'm gotta save myself.
Really? Bachelor Brook?
I know, that's what I was just thinking.
No, here's a lure.
Oh,
Were you
now
going to
drawn.
Charlemont area or? Zora
Yeah,
outdoor?
Zor, exactly.
There were a couple people drowned up there this year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it did, yeah.
Yeah.
Typically, it's people who don't know how to swim and don't wear life preservers.
But one of them, I guess, hit a whirlpool.
And
sucked
got sucked
down.
right under.
Yeah.
Well, if you hit it at the wrong time, and they open up the dam, you know?
There's 2 on each really. This is something.
Okay. Am I missing some?
Probably.
There's 2 in each.
My friend's been doing whitewater
What's
rafting
that? 11 o'clock meeting, that's it, that's through Jack.
It's 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock, I mean.
This is Jack. Yes. 1 o'clock is Jack and 3 o'clock is the DOR.
DLR again?
They're coming in to do the financial management under the community compact program. And they're coming to do the financial forecasting report that they developed for us prior to it being put on the website.
No idea.
Now, are we meeting then again on the 18th of August?
I don't care.
Well, I know that your
This is
schedule
not
is.
good.
Oh, I'm good now.
You're good now?
Pretty good.
So we're going back to Mondays again, or?
Yeah. I should be fine until Probably should be fine, because by the time next time rolls around, it'll be done.
Okay.
These are all signed.
Should be.
I gave you the folder here.
Oh, right there, it's right in front of me.
So this was all set, right? These are all set, Chris.
When's the dedication for Wayne 7?
I think it's the 14th,
Or the 16th?
16th. I got it on my phone, but
I thought it was the 11th.
No, I thought it was. When's the next concert? I think it's the 16th is the next concert.
let's see. On the 11th, we've got DOR. On the 16th, we've got somebody.
And you got Collins on the 11th.
Oh, the 11th
no,
at 1.
Jack Collins. At 1.
Yep.
And then for the first meeting of September, you want to do Tuesday the 6th, seeing how Monday's the holiday?
Good to be.
Okay, so Thursday, August 11th, 1 o'clock.
Was it yes or no on the... What's our August meeting? We got
15th,
15th. And the 11th, right?
yes.
9/6.
9/6 would be that Tuesday, because the 5th is Labor Day.
9/20.
9/19.
So, Rob's adding on here?
Huh?
I'm adding any other days on here?
8/11, 8/15, 9/6, 9/9.
Well, our next meeting for the regular board will be, we're going back to the Monday schedule again. So it'll be August 15th.
Okay.
And then the first one in September will be Tuesday, because that Monday is a holiday. The Labor Day.
Yeah.
So we'll meet on the 6th. And then we'll meet on September 19th.
I don't think about anything after August, thank you.
Hmm?
I don't think anything after August, thank you.
Okay.
Swack.
Yeah, they're coming in at 7.
You got more people coming?
Jay? Yeah. Did you hear from Joe? To my knowledge,
So
he's
the
supposed to
11th
be
and the
here.
15th?
We got a few minutes, so.
What?
The 11th and the 15th?
Yes, the 11th
I didn't even
is
notice you
1
were
o'clock,
there.
and then 3 o'clock. Then the 15th is at 6:30.
What's this about this driver?
I guess what happened, we should have talked about it with Al here. One of the trash collection drivers was doing his route, and he noticed that there was a issue with a resident when he was collecting the trash. He noticed a woman in distress in her house, called 911, but couldn't get in because the sliding door was locked. Basically, he stayed with her until the police and the ambulance arrived. So, basically, they were saying that him being there helped keep her from dying.
And they're gonna recognize her?
I think the police wants to do something to recognize them. I believe Republic Services are gonna do something to recognize them also, so.
On this one, Internet Essentials by Comcast is designed to help close the digital divide, provides eligible public housing residents with access to low-cost broadband service for $9.95 a month, no activation fees. We should probably pass that on to housing.
Yep.
We do that.
Yep.
I'll wait for,
Here he comes.
Joe.
Which Steve?
Look at that, you don't even get a chance to sit down. Why, are we ready for me already?
Yeah, if you want to
We're
go.
waiting for a half an hour.
I was told 7 or
Just kidding.
Here, I'll give the paperwork
You're good.
now, I'm done.
If you want to come
I'm
up.
out of time.
Joe, we're just waiting for Steve to come back.
Okay, no problem.
How's you working?
Seems to be doing all right. You know, haven't heard any complaints. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Still have an electronic version. Good.
Whenever ready.
Okay. This document is based on the charge that you gave us 2 years ago. So we have a table of contents, but let's go to page 2. You can review it because we'll get to the highlights. So again, the mission, that's the exact statement that was provided to us. In terms of the introduction, that's something that we've been over before, so that's just sort of basic background. Purpose of the options plan. To meet the committee's charge, SWAC has created a plan that identifies options available to the town, prioritizes the options based upon current market conditions and implementation requirements, and recommends the best option currently available to the town. What I would like to say off the bat that in terms of our recommendations, it's not unanimous, it's majority. Okay, so we do have members that dissent on certain options that we've selected. And again, we focused on the 5 options that we had: curbside pickup with current or alternative vendor, build and operate transfer station, curbside pickup and build and operate a recycling center, yoke with another community, create a solid waste district, or nothing, leaving responsibility in the hands of the individuals. Now, this thing could have been longer, but what we decided to do was make it simple by doing it more outline form. So if we go to page 3, we'll start getting into the options. Okay, so in terms of the rank order of the options, option number 1 is continue with curbside pickup. We're in the 3rd year of our 3-year contract. Requirements include weekly curbside pickup, bi-weekly curbside recycling, bulky hazardous waste day. Contract status: initiate new contract negotiations with Republic other vendors, and potential changes: increase recycling opportunities, modify container size, lower cost. So those were some of the different types of options that we basically looked at. Curbside pickup has been adopted and embraced by a majority of town residents. 2 out of 3 Granby households favor the current curbside pickup program. 54.1% want the town to negotiate a new curbside pickup contract. 15.2% want an increase in the size of the waste container. 1 out of 5 Granby households, which is 20%, want more recycling opportunities.
Joe, I'm a little confused on the figures. 2 out of 3 like the program,
Mm-hmm.
but 12% less than that.
Well, the
only
reason-
12%, I mean, 54% want a new. What do the other 12% want us to do? I don't understand.
Well, that was in terms of the survey, the results. That's just the way the numbers came out. So you have people in favor, but I'm basically talking about an as-is contract. So 54.1% are saying you don't need to make any changes.
I see. So it's not necessarily renegotiating.
So 2 out of
change
every
terms.
3 still are in favor of what we're doing, but, 15% want an increase in the waste container size. So
Okay.
if you take that, that's close to the 2 out of 3 when
I
you
gotcha.
add the percentage up.
Maybe 28% want modifications made to the current curbside service.
But those modifications could be, we want to pay differently, we don't want a tax rate,
I want
we
it on
want a bigger
Tuesday, not
container.
Wednesday, or whatever.
I want recycling every week, so that's the reason for it. So basically, the town's behind the decisions that you guys made, and we're behind that. You'll see when we get to our recommendations, but again, everybody chimed in and said that they would like certain changes to the contract, and that's why 54% said, hey, the way you're doing it is fine. So, the second option, our second option, if we didn't go forward with curbside pickup, would be a transfer station. Again, because there's a demand for, about 25% of the people still want a transfer station over curbside pickup, but they want that kind of convenience and stuff. So if we look at option number 2, the current status is we have no station. If you look at the requirements, we're estimating $200,000 to $300,000 investment in land and infrastructure, equipment and manpower and operations. We don't have any final numbers on that. That was based on research we did, the past, the estimated size. If you felt that we needed a serious plan for this, then we have all the resources there to go together and put it together. But to go out and get all of the pricing now when we're not sure exactly what we would do, we don't have a land location, the number that we would put together for the document may not be accurate, okay? Certainly regulatory requirements if we did a transfer station. There are state requirements and engineering study compliance, and the DEP for us has estimated that fee cost, if we went forward, would be $15,000. And of course, development plan, we don't have one. We would need to create a written plan for location.
So the requirements, again, I hope you don't mind interrupting us.
No, that's fine.
The $200,000 to $300,000, that's the initial investment.
That's what we believe the initial investment in the first year.
There would still be
There's still going to be operational
operating costs.
Right, and those are going to be determined based on how many days, hours, what it's going to take to basically operate.
So that $200,000 to $300,000, that's just an estimate on the initial cost.
That's the initial cost. So
And in
if we did
addition-
1 acre, we would need to pave it, we would need to put in equipment.
You gotta buy
we would
it,
need to- If
potentially.
we had to buy land, or what if we decided to go forward and we leased from the Westover Development because they wouldn't sell us, there would be a rental cost. Initially, we thought we'd be in better shape for recommending a piece of land, which would be behind the highway department, but as long as no sewer line goes down the road, that property cannot be used because we wouldn't meet the 500-foot setback from the septic and the well and all of that kind of thing. And so there are requirements there.
So-
And again, we just wanted to abbreviate it so you wouldn't get into the minutia, but
Sure.
stay at the top.
But you didn't look at an annual operating cost at all.
No, but we could easily get that from other towns that are comparable, so we reached out to some other towns. I know that Jay, in the past we had met with Ludlow to talk about some things. But Arlene had also provided last year a generic document to the committee, which I believe is attached to one of the minutes, I don't remember which, and it said, this piece of equipment, it's this estimated cost. It's this estimated cost.
You don't recall what those figures were.
I don't recall, but I can certainly find the document and email it to you guys if you guys want that.
Just in
Committee
case
could
the
certainly.
question came up, that's all.
Yeah, okay. But it's out there, so if you needed some documentation, we could probably put it together for you in a week or two. My estimate, Okay? And on the transfer station, I just want to make it a point that, and again, here I'm using the survey data, but since it's like 1 in every 3 households, statistically you can extrapolate that to 100%. basically 75% of the people that responded said that they had used the transfer station. So that meant that 25% were using some other kind of service. And 1 out of 4 households in the survey, or 25%, said that their number one preference was a new transfer station over curbside pickup.
Do you recall the breakdown in costs between pickup and disposal? In other words, we would, if we built a transfer station, we would lose the pickup cost, but we would still have to pay a disposal fee.
Yeah, well, the pickup cost, I believe we said, Jay, you got the numbers. I think you said it was $21,000 a month right now.
The current curbside pickup, just for the trucks, the manpower, because Granby doesn't own them, Chris is paying the Republic $21,000 a month for that. In addition to that, he pays $64 per ton for the disposal of the household trash, and we did 1,100 tons between May of last year and June of this year. That's the amount of tonnage. Chris has the exact figures.
So you're talking 70,000 roughly a year for.
Yeah, for the disposals, right. So basically, one way that you might look at these numbers is that if roughly we're paying $250,000 for pickup costs, and you decided that you wanted to go to a transfer station because at that point it was advantageous, basically 1 year of pickup costs is equivalent to the investment cost of building out the transfer station based on our estimate. If you take the average between $200,000 and $300,000, that's $250,000. 21,000 a month is $242,000. So roughly, it would take 1 year of the cost of the service to pay for the a transfer station. So in year 2 and 3, you don't have that cost anymore. From there on out, you have only operational and disposal costs. But we should always keep disposal separate, since that's going to be our variable cost, and tonnage is going to vary. So at least if you look at that economically there, if you had to migrate to a transfer station, it doesn't look so bad, because, you know, your break even then is really 24 months, you know, because you got to pay to build the transfer station $250,000. You got that $250,000 the first year, but now that cost goes away in year 2, I guess, minus operational. So by the end of 2 or 3 years of a contract, you're basically going to break even on building the transfer station, and now after that, it's purely your disposal cost. So in the long run, that might actually reflect a savings, but everybody's happy with curbside pickup right now, and it's an easy thing to do. There we would have to commit financial resources, and so in the first year of building out a transfer station, we would still need a disposal contract, so that year 1, your budget's going to be $500,000 plus disposal.
And you still have a percentage of people that are not going to use the transfer station.
Right, right. But you did have 75% of the people that used it, so 3/4 of the town would use it. The rest of the people would be doing what they're currently doing with private service, or doing some kind of curbside or something else. I mean, I know a few people in Granby that have contracts with Amherst to dispose of their garbage. I mean, I don't know why, but, you know, they do that. You know, maybe it's business related or something. So, but those, you know, but that's where your economic trade-off is going to be. So, and then in our ranking, third option is we continue with curbside pickup, but we build out a recycling center to deal with the collection of more of those kinds of materials. And our estimated investment there is you need a smaller amount of land. So we're estimating about $50,000 to $60,000 investment in land and infrastructure, equipment, and manpower to build out a recycling center, and then you're going to have an operational cost.
That would not reduce our pickup costs any?
No. That would just enable people to have another capability to manually recycle more, but no, that would not reduce anything in the current contract.
So that would actually cost us more than...
That's going to cost you more if you went with that model, because you got to build that out and you got to operate. Okay. I'm assuming that there's no added cost with Republic or somebody for collection of recyclables currently, right? You know, that's all bundled into the process, so you couldn't like really probably break that out and say, okay, maybe we can save $30,000 or $40,000 a year. Okay? And partly the reason that that's there at number 3 is because a lot of people wanted more opportunity to recycle and dispose of household items, because that recycling center wouldn't just be pure recyclables, it would be some of these other items that we might be dealing with on bulky waste day or some of the other kinds of stuff. You know, people would be looking for metal, other kinds of things to be able to get rid of. What I would like to say statistically is that 1 out of 5 households, or 20%, wanted an increase in recycling opportunities. And you'll see that reflected in our recommendations here at the end. 51% of the town wanted more special collection days, including, you know, across the board, but the biggest one was bulky waste items. Now, granted, under our current contract, Republic will pick it up, you have to call, but that cost of pickup is significantly higher than certainly what we've offered on our bulky waste collection days. So that's sort of where that's reflected. Okay.
Dave DeRozier says, if the town wanted to buy 1 or 2 maximum more of the 20-yard containers, which cost $3,600 each, we could do away with varnish completely, because varnish we use in conjunction with the 20-yard, because varnish can haul the 30-yard containers, but once he hauls the 30-yard containers, Dave has to rent his trucks, because Dave's trucks cannot take a 30-yard container. So he says that we could do away with varnish completely with 1 or maximum 2 more 20-yard containers, which could be used for multiple things, whether it's yard waste, bulky waste, whatever.
So I can't remember when we talked about this earlier in the year. You get the impression that people actually know they can call up Republic and get them to pick up?
I'll bet you that probably half the people don't really know.
Yeah.
Maybe what we might want to recommend from their end is, you know, we just got the mailing on the schedule. Maybe next time we do the mailing, at the top of that, in bold letters, we might communicate, you know, remember, or did you know that we pick up bulky waste? You have to call, schedule.
They do have a paragraph in that,
Yeah.
because I read that.
Oh, yeah,
It's not
but it's
really,
not-
it's not pronounced
Well,
in any way, shape, or form.
I mean, why did I do this document this way? Because people don't read anymore. We're in information overload, so that's got to be, if that's something that we want to make aware of in all advertising, they always say put it above the line, and so right there, that should be advertised right at the top. You know, we are publishing, I guess we had to under the new SMRP grant, that we had to get their pricing and publish that at the website, and I think it's fairly minimal. You know, they don't have a lot of published pricing.
I've had, I want to say, like, to get rid of a couch, I think it was $12.
Yeah.
And it's pretty, I thought it was pretty reasonable. And,
Yeah.
and they come, I mean, it's not like,
Yeah.
well, the thing is, if you put it out on your front lawn and then you forget about it, and you're sitting there with a recliner on your front lawn for 3 weeks, but.
A neighbor of mine called up, wanted to get rid of the sulfur, and they said they could not pick it up, it cost $150.
Yeah, that doesn't sound right.
I know, it's not awful high for me too.
Because,
Maybe there was somebody on the sofa at the time.
They wanted to get rid of it.
unwanted
It
guest.
was a 500-pound sofa that were like 3 people. They wanted to get rid of their 3 kids and the sofa.
Because I want to say I might have paid $25 for something, but
Right.
and
Uh-huh.
I know mattresses. I got mattresses. I got rid of like 12. So
So, yeah, I mean, certainly we could do, but, you know, that was the other thing about communication in general at the previous meeting when I brought up the electronic sign concept, because regardless of what we do, you know, most people are unaware. They don't pay attention till the last minute. They're not sure where they want to go, what they want to do, who to call. I mean, it's the age-old process. I mean, it's not government's fault. It's the individual's fault here. But at the same time, we just have to continue to make it easier and put out the important messages so that they get that information. So, okay. The fourth option, actually, in terms of the total listings, is leave the responsibility to the individual household. 10% of the people just said, hey, you know, don't tax me. I don't want it. Just leave it to me. Let me make my own decision. So,
The only thing with that, the average cost is $400 a year. If you call up to Alternative Republic or Waste Management, they charge you $400 a year, and the smallest container they will give you is 65 gallon. 65 gallon was Alternatives, 96 gallon was Waste Management. They will not give you a smaller container. And it's $400 a year, and Waste Management was the only one that had a senior discount, 62 of them.
So again, if you look at the bullets, we currently don't have an arrangement, would require eliminating current tax, et cetera, so there's some bullets. But I just wanted to make that point that you've got 10% of the people in town that just say, leave it to me and let me make my own decisions. So that's our fourth ranking. We've addressed everybody, and then the fifth one on the next page, on page 5, is use neighboring towns' transfer station, create solid waste district, because that was part of our mission too. Realistically, you know, we have no current arrangement. That would be something you guys would have to reach out to other town officers or designate somebody as your representative for the purpose of this thing. And really, I mean, you've got to be a budding town. So what do we have? We have Amherst, Belchertown, Ludlow, or South Hadley, you know. To me, Amherst would not be a good option because they're way the heck on the other side of town. You know, they might want our involvement just because they have curbside and that, and they're probably running excess expenses. Belchertown is also a long way away. And it's also a matter of whether the towns want this. I don't think South Hadley would have the capacity for us, but, you know, they're the closest, and then you got Ludlow. So,
Out of these, they're all transfer stations, or any of them landfills?
those are all transfer stations. All those towns have a transfer station. That's why that's listed there, because otherwise that would not be an option. So, now, I do know that Chris, and it's not in our recommendations, but in our discussions, you know, one of the questions is, could we do something with Ludlow with regard to our yard waste or something like that? Send people there instead of just doing our special collection days or in addition to that. But that would require you guys to reach out to the appropriate parties and negotiate something.
We've reached out to this point. We reached out under the yard waste. I think it's fair to say several times, if not a dozen times. I think that the lack of reaching back suggests that.
Okay, then they're not, yeah.
Just for your.
Okay.
And currently for yard waste, Dave DeRoche has arranged an agreement with the compost shed in Belchertown. As long as it's clean compost and we do a good watchful eye on it, our due diligence, they take it for nothing. So the only cost that we incur for getting rid of yard waste is Dave's trucks and Dave's people.
Will they take it from individuals?
That was not asked, but the impression I got would be no. The question wasn't directly asked because it's a compost facility and the guy really doesn't. He wants to, if he's got a problem, he wants to go to one person. If he's got a problem with all of these different cars, he doesn't want to address it.
Right,
That's
so
the way it was kind of left.
right now, one thing is that when a year ago, when DEP Dan Paul came out, we all looked at various properties with him. We also looked at the highway department, you know, you don't want to be rated as compost because then that has other requirements and setbacks, but you could, if you had a location, you could allow residents to drop their yard waste on the ground, and we would just have to get rid of it within a 7-day period. So, I mean, in the long term, that would be an option, but Dave doesn't really want that, you know, because we have to make sure that people aren't leaving garbage in that, so. But certainly that is an option that is available to us, so. And again, only 1 in 12 Granby households rank their number one choice as, you know, working with another town in their transfer station, so. So then in terms of a sort of a high-level cost-benefit analysis of each option to provide an economic baseline for establishing the value of each option, we looked at these, and again, what we did was we looked at the numbers. Jay got our disposal numbers and everything else, and this is sort of a high-level analysis. I'm not giving you a detailed economic analysis here of everything. But in looking at a combination of things right now, curbside pickup, we feel, given the current economic conditions, remains the best choice. Transfer station, possible long-term solution driven by economics. But again, that's that 1 year initial double investment, and probably realistically, if you look at operational costs that we currently don't have, that's probably a 3-year, 2 to 3 year break even before you're saying, hey, this has a significant positive economic impact on us, because you don't know what the operational costs are. If the operational costs are $50,000 a year, then yeah, by year 2 we broke even, because our operational costs for curbside pickup are currently $242,000 a year. So curbside pickup recycling center, that's potential solution, but again, that's an add-on investment based on demand, and that's going to be an added cost if you stay with curbside pickup. So once you build it out, maybe the recycling center only costs you, you know, $30,000 a year to operate. I don't know. You know, maybe you make some money back because now you're in control of all of these recyclables, and based on these different contracts, you can basically do something. So, and majority, you know, in terms of leaving the responsibility to the individual, we don't believe it's a good economic decision given the costs are significantly higher. I did an analysis of the tax rolls and grouped everything and put them in the spreadsheet. So I took the LA4 report, and then I had Carrie Ann give me a bunch of data, and basically 85% of the households are paying an average of, I mean, not counting bags again, because bags are separate, but in terms of what our basic service is, 85% of the households are paying $224 a year or less. So in terms of the total, in terms of their cost minus their added disposal costs. So,
What are we getting on bag revenue? It must have dropped considerably.
We're bringing in about 12,000.
Oh, what's that indicate for bags?
It's mostly the 30-gallon ones that we sell. So
Which are
a buck a piece.
$1
Or
each.
$2 a piece. So,
6,000 bags.
yeah.
so it's not
So-
huge, you know,
Well, that's
but in
Bag
terms
of
of the
resident
savings, I
year
mean,
is-
that's why, yeah. I mean, $12,000.
you don't see a lot of blue bags out on trash day when I drive around.
Yeah. Well, my neighbors, I tell them, hey, they don't put out trash cans. Some of them are putting all their garbage in a blue bag, and I'm telling them, well, you don't have to put it all in a blue bag. You can get one big 35-gallon bag, and then any additional you have to do it. But some of them just do it that way, so they don't have a lot of trash, so it gives us added income. But
And really the cost of disposing of trash, gallons have nothing to do with it. It's all by the pound.
Yeah.
Right.
64, you know, dollars per ton.
But they don't charge that way.
No.
I mean, they don't charge us that way.
Well, you couldn't weigh it, individual
Right.
trash.
Well, the thing of it is supposedly, if it's over 40 pounds, the public people put a sticker on your can or your bag or whatever you use it, say it's too heavy for me to pick up. And as far as the bags go, I'm not a big proponent of bags because they give you a lot of headaches. And the drawstring bags, they complain, I pay for this bag, the drawstrings don't work. When they attempt to put 40 pounds of weight in it, you lift it up, the bottom comes open, you see what good's the bag.
Now we could find a different vendor if that's.
Well, if it's
Yeah, but
more than
remember,
40
the
pounds,
bag's
it's
only
great.
designed for 33
Right.
gallons, okay, and the lower weight. I mean, people are just trying to say, I only want one bag. I mean, I know that. If I overfill my bag, it's starting to rip. I just pick it up from the bottom to make sure the whole thing doesn't fall apart, you know, if in fact I did that, you know, but,
When the trash guy comes to pick it up, the grapes, he leaves it in.
Yeah.
He's not gonna sit pick it all up.
yeah, but the design of your program, sorry.
No, go ahead,
Okay.
go ahead.
But the design of your program, in terms of how you negotiate and put it together, is obviously continue to push people to recycle. And so that helped us, you know, because we did a really good job after, you know, in the last years of the transfer station in terms of increasing the amount of recycling for the town, especially once, you know, everything started to get more disciplined there. So again, we've done that good job. That's what the DEP wants. They want people to recycle more. So I think that, you know, we're meeting that thing. So let's go to page 6. Okay. So I just tried to look at a high level. First of all, each option. I mean, everything has its trade-offs. You know, so we tried to look at, you know, what's the biggest pro and what's the biggest con. You know, in curbside pickup, the pro is the current program. It's a current program. It's running effectively. We don't have to do a lot of things to tweak the program, so it's fairly effective. The biggest con is gaps in service. That's why we have those special collection days. If you look at the transfer station, the biggest pros are ownership and flexibility. The biggest con is the initial investment and operational costs. Although I showed you that basically after roughly, you know, it'd be roughly a 2 to 3 year break even if you added up the investment cost plus the operation cost as a trade-off to our annual expenditure for our total cost for curbside pickup. So if curbside pickup in a 3-year contract costs roughly $750,000 over 3 years, building out a transfer station and then running it is probably only going to cost $400. You know, let's throw it at the high end and say we misestimate. It's probably going to cost us $500,000. So you can sort of look at that trade-off. But again, it's that year one investment that's the kicker if you decide to migrate to a transfer station. And also, don't forget, we don't have a piece of land yet for a transfer station, and that's going to be a big deal. Because if you go to Westover and they demand that you lease land, and you do it over there at the Metro the
WMDC.
development, okay. You know, they might want a 25-year lease, and they might want us to pay $7,500 a year, and so that's what, $150,000, $200,000 to something that we don't own that we do improvements to. But you know, certainly that's a land option relative to everything else.
Well, what would scare me about that, I think, is the kind of the hidden costs. The employees, obviously, the health insurance, the
Oh, yeah,
retirement,
yeah.
the liability insurance.
Yeah, I haven't assumed all of those, and that's
Right.
why I inflated the number operationally, because maybe with all of that, you're talking $125,000, $150,000 a year.
Right.
You know,
They are considering the cost of the cleanup cost, then your contract to get off that land too. If you're not gonna renew the lease to stay there,
If you leased it, right.
if you leased it.
Right.
because Westover will not sell you that.
No, we're better off owning whatever land. If we
Right.
did that, we're better off owning whatever land, because we'd be in a better position to contain any environmental.
But Just,
easy in the
no
future.
matter where you go, there's either gonna be environmental issues, or there's gonna be neighbor issues, or there's gonna be traffic issues, or it's very difficult. Trying to site a transfer station in this day and age, I think, is very, very difficult.
Yep.
Everybody agrees on
It's a challenge, you know, so. And so basically, you know, if you looked at curbside pickup recycling center, the biggest pro is additional recycling, but the con is additional manpower. I didn't put investment, that there's that. If you leave the responsibility to the individual, the pro is its personal choice. The town has no responsibility. The con is it's more expensive for each individual, plus we don't know what the impact might be in terms of the amount of trash left around town if people chose to not find a contractor, but just, you know, I gotta go find some place to throw this stuff, so. And use of neighboring community station, obviously no capital investment, but it's total external control. So we have no control over yoking with another, you know, they've gotta be willing to do it. And I would have to imagine that anybody that did a deal with our town is gonna be looking for income. So it's not gonna be some, you know, individual basis, some inexpensive kind of process. They're gonna be looking for us to help them offset their operational costs for that. So, let's drop down to, on the bottom of page 6, GAP programs. Again, you guys are very familiar with that because we've had to come to you for approval on that stuff. These are the special collection days that we talk about to fill in the gaps in service. And again, we have 3 types of days. We have yard waste days, bulky waste days, and hazardous waste days. And we believe that that's been fairly successful. I mean, that's been well received, and people are demanding, you know, more of that, especially bulky waste. And that's why maybe we need to get Republic to put out another flyer just communicating that with their costs to help supplement. We're still committed to 2 days a year right now.
Joe, how do the bulky waste days that we do, how will they operate? People bring the stuff to
Yeah.
a central location?
Yeah, well, basically where we held this, the first one we had this year. Last year we only had one, and we hired Gold Cycling or whatever, but we couldn't get them to come in, so we handled everything this year. So I have a booklet at home. So we generated about, I don't, Chris, do you remember how much money we gave
We
you?
generated more than it actually cost.
Well, yeah, we know that, but I think we generated about $1,600.
Okay, and how did you get rid of the stuff?
Okay, and then Dave used the trucks, you know, so we had different, different roll-offs that we used, and then he took it to Goldie Cycling, who didn't come in and do it, but basically it cost us $900 to get rid of that with them. There was something else that Dave was able to get rid of at no cost that somebody wanted. I don't remember what that was. And so in the end, Dave took care of the disposal of the bulky items, plus we use the one free roll-off a year that we get from Republic, and so Republic took that one free roll-off away, and so what we paid Republic was just for the disposal cost of whatever the weight of that was.
That's why they said if he could get 1 or 2 containers additional to what he had, 20-yard containers, he could do all the bulky waste himself. He could do all the compost himself. He could do all that if he had 2 more containers. He wouldn't need varnish. And as Joe stated, the current contract gives you 1 30-yard container per year, which they'll send their truck, which we don't have to pay for. We just have to pay for the contents.
So,
But the only problem with that,
yeah,
you buy additional containers, he's gonna need additional trucks to haul the containers, he's gonna need additional manpower to operate the trucks, highly specialized operators because they have to have a special license, so on and so forth on the line. So it's not just a container and David will handle it with his staffing. We will have to have additional trucks and additional manpower.
Well, I understand what you're saying, and you should probably have a conversation with Dave, but the implication to me was, we have the truck, we have different containers to collect different things, because you can't put everything, you know, we want to put metal in one container, we're putting other stuff in another container, so the, you know, my understanding and the way that he communicated that was that it wouldn't be an additional truck, but it would be those roll-offs, because we need to separate everything.
But that's what he says to begin with, Joe.
Uh-huh.
And it ends up being something completely
Okay.
different. That, oh, I don't have the manpower to do it. Oh, I don't have the time to do it. Oh, I don't have this. I don't have that. You know, you're stretching my department beyond the means that it can operate. Things of that nature. That's what we end up getting on this end
Okay.
after the fact.
Okay.
Okay, and I'm just going by history.
Well, there was mentioned on one of them about how these guys were getting taxed by working on Saturdays doing a bulky waste,
Yep.
and he needed more manpower, remember that? And they were, because they didn't want to work or something. That was what I was getting at. If it's a break-even proposition, the way we're doing it, it's just a matter of offering
Well,
more
I think
days
that,
of-
right, so maybe what we do is have a conversation with Dave, and Dave needs to submit and outline a document that says, hey, I don't, you know, this is really what I need, you know. I mean, I can have that conversation and say, okay, if we consider this, what do we really need? Are we just limited to one truck, or ultimately will we need another truck? Is it enough with the current manpower, or if you do this because we might do, instead of 2, 3 days or 4 days, how does that impact the operation? I think, from my standpoint, I think that, you know, Dave is willing to do this, but he wants to make sure that it doesn't come out of his budget. He wants to make sure that whatever the hours are, because, for example, with your yard waste day, when you add up the manpower and everything else, I'm estimating, based on past numbers, that it's roughly $800 to $1,000 a day. Okay? For the bulky waste, the advantage of the bulky waste is that although you have his manpower, some of that's going to be offset because we're actually making a small income. After all of our disposal costs, there is money left over that, you know, that's all in Chris's, you know, that all goes into that enterprise fund and stuff like that.
So really, it would be to our interest this year in the contract negotiations to try and up the number of days that 30-yard container would be available.
Yeah, so that might be something where we would have that available 2 or 3 days, 2 or 3 of those instead of just one. You know, so that might help out a little bit based on the current program that we do. Okay, so that's an option too. But I would say that I still believe, for example, because in all the research and the communications, when I, you know, if I get in a conversation with people, people would like a container to throw metal in, you know. I mean, maybe you get a second, you know, maybe we invest in one roll-off this year because then we can sort of leave it out there for something like that. You know, that was my understanding from Dave. It was more, I need roll-offs, not because I need another truck or whatever. I need more containers because I have to separate these materials. So the metal goes to this guy and we don't have to pay for that, and, you know, whatever waste goes to this guy, and, you know, just goes on down the line.
So
Because we always need more than, what we always end up with, it seems, is that when we have these bulky waste days, that one 30-yard container is insufficient. So what we do is last time, a bunch of stuff was put down in the lot, and then on Monday, because we had that on a Saturday, then when we got an empty 20-yarder, then the rest of that stuff that was bulky waste was thrown into that container and hauled away. Okay?
can bulky waste sit on site? I know you can't leave compost there for more than a week, but what about metal and
Yeah, I mean, it can't,
Can't haul one around to 7 days without being.
yeah, well, 7, right, but you got 7 days. Okay?
That's to not be able to operate without a permit.
Without a permit, you got 7 days. So as long as it sits there less than 7 days, that's okay. So it has to be out of there. Now, what Dan also said is that's the rule, but he said, you know, am I gonna be coming over here every week to check and see if there's still stuff sitting there? He said, no, you know. But the rule is 7 days, and you should get rid of it within that reasonable time period anyway. So that's the other option. If you don't go with more containers, it's got to sit on the ground. But
Well, so I was thinking, in a container, if they had a place where people could drop off metal, would they have to empty that every week, or could they wait till it was full?
to be honest, I don't know if we'd have to empty it I'd have to ask Dan on that.
Okay.
So I'm not sure. But again, these, what I call these gaps that we're filling in with these special collection days certainly are important. And again, we sponsor also jointly with South Hadley one hazardous waste day every year. And that's on the bottom of page 6. If you see hazardous waste days, that's the oils, chemicals. We sponsor one day every year. It's in September. We do it jointly with South Hadley, and I believe under the current contract, Republic gives us $3,200 towards the cost of that. Towns people have to register, but also we get more grant points because Arlene put us together with a whole bunch of other communities. So if members of our community wanted to go to somebody else's day, they would just have to register and go to that day. Now remember, we get $3,200, but based on the Granby people, the town still gets a bill, okay, for that disposal. I think last year's day, I think the bill was,
4,800.
is that what it was? So 4,800. So the town actually picked up 1,600 out of that. So when town members go to someone else's town, they'll submit a bill to the town of Granby for the cost of the disposal of whatever the residents brought.
We don't charge residents, or do we, for disposal?
No.
So we do for bulky waste, but not for...
Yeah, for bulky waste, but we don't charge for this.
The hazardous waste people would not come up and set up a site. As of the one we had last year, for less than $4,800 for the day. If you not produce, but you dispose so much hazardous waste, then the cost can go up over $40,000.
So last year, it wasn't because we disposed of too much, it was because we didn't have enough that we were gonna bring.
We didn't meet the minimum charge. Minimum charge is $4,800 just to bring in trucks and people and set the site up. Between us and South Hadley, we did not meet the minimum amount of hazardous waste, so the charge was $4,800. Then you had to pay for 2 South Hadley policemen and stuff like that to secure the site, which was all arranged, and that, all the charges were put in there. That's why we ended up paying a little bit over that. And we did have 4 of us went over to volunteer as far as guiding people through it, but that's, we didn't have to pay for that.
Okay, and if we go to page 7, just in terms of the feedback from the residents, basically, and again, you know, this data that I incorporated was based on that raw survey data that you have. 1 and 2 Granby residents want more special collection days, and when it breaks,
What do you mean by special collection?
that's the bulky waste day, we call them.
Oh, okay, so then you
Okay,
break
we
it
call them
down.
special collection days because they're not, you know, yard waste day, bulky waste day, hazardous waste day. So 40%, if we're out of 10 households, wanted more yard waste days. So that's of this 50%, okay? 6 out of 10 wanted more hazardous waste days, and 8 out of 10 wanted more bulky waste days.
So that 8 out of 10 is actually 40% of...
Is actually 40% of all residents, because only half the residents said they wanted more days. This is more days than what we currently offer.
Got it.
So, okay, but you can see that the biggest demand is for bulky waste. So maybe the way that we deal with that demand again is to better communicate when we don't have those days what Republic Services can do for you in the interim. So,
Well, what I don't understand is why there's such, well, I suppose it's going to be a cost discrepancy because they're going to send a truck out specifically, but it seems to be a lot more expensive.
They send a pickup truck to pick up
yeah, well, they're definitely more expensive than what we charge.
but
That's-
we subsidize it, right?
No.
Now we also have
Well, basically, we looked at our fees, and they're very reasonable and probably lower than the individual pickup. But when you add up everything we took in, I mean, after we paid to dispose of everything, and probably, basically, I don't know what the labor cost was, but we sort of look at bulky waste day. Our design was to make it break even. We don't lose money, and we don't make money, but we're probably right around that line. I mean, I think we made money, but I don't know what Dave's actual labor bill was. I mean, I guess probably for all of our special collection days, I guess I should get that, or, from somebody, and then that would give you the final numbers. But basically, the design of bulky waste day is, it doesn't cost us anything, we don't make money, but we don't lose money, and that's what we've been doing and playing with the price points and stuff.
To
And so-
answer your question, Mark, in the current contract, Republic will come out on an as-requested basis to remove bulky waste from a person's home. But the consumer that calls them is responsible for paying for the trucking and the disposal of that material. That's why I said my neighbor came over to my house and knocked on my door. Says, I just called Republic, they want $150 and don't get my solar.
No, I don't believe.
I
don't believe that's a
I have
complete
to
fact.
call up Republic and get a printout of what they charge.
I've used them like probably this time 3 or 4 times. I've gotten rid of chairs,
Yeah.
small couches,
If they
mattresses.
say it's gonna cost you $25 to get rid of a TV, that's all they can charge you, is $25 to get rid of the
But
TV.
then-
They can't charge you for the fuel charge for the guy to come out.
Right.
And
Flat
his
fee.
wages and this and that, it's a flat fee.
So who knows? Well, maybe what this points out is that in the contract negotiations with whatever vendors, we want a more explicit bulky waste price list. Because if you go to the website, we had them send us something because we had to comply for the grant, and it was like hardly any information. So it made it seem like, okay, you call up, it's like, on that day, what do we want to charge you? That's what it sort of seems like if you look at that. So I would just say that just a better price list so that there's more
Yeah,
clarification.
it's probably hard for them because a TV isn't
Oh, yeah.
just a TV. I mean,
Yeah,
it's-
because there's different sizes.
sizes.
We charge for different sizes, and then when we disposed on this last bulky waste day, we were again, our rate for the difference is charged, or it's charged by weight or something, so.
And the TV dependent, is it an LCD with Ethernet or?
Right.
Right.
No, or
Yeah.
CRT with
Cathode ray. Yeah.
And that's why in the way that we're doing it, for a lot of people, it's probably better, because then everything goes to that one special company. Because if it's through Republic, unfortunately, there's a cost. They come pick it up, and then they gotta separate it, and then they gotta get it to whoever they're delivering that to. So, okay. So the next section, which was, for our committee, a big debate, and that's like how we pay for this. Tax-based funding and fairness, because, there certainly was a critique that people, because it's in the tax base, every taxable property is paying the freight for this, regardless of whether they have a dwelling unit or not. So that became a big debate. And after our last actual meeting, I went out and I had Carrie Ann provide me the entire tax data. I calculated the taxes for everything. I aggregated things. And that's where I came up with the number that, in government, and again, some people will disagree because, in fairness, so what's fair? Is it fair that everybody should be charged the same rate? So should we calculate what that is and then create a separate tax bill, or based on this percentage? But the reality is that if we went and Jay is working on making the case for a flat fee rate, because that's what he believes in fairness, over what the committee said was that we felt that the way we're doing it is best. I sort of analyze that number and I look at government differently. I say for the community, what's best? And the fact that 85% of the people pay $224 or less, and we sort of calculate that as the break even if we went to a flat fee service for everything. What we're saying is that to address higher tax issues on 15% of the properties, we're going to make 85% of the taxable parcels all pay more to compensate this higher rent. And so I went in and I analyzed that, and I guess, and I aggregated it, recoded stuff, so I had dollar groups and stuff like that, and that's basically how we came up with the number. So the majority of the committee, we voted to leave it as is, and you can't do anything for the next year, but over the next year, Jay will make a case for migrating to a flat fee service over, over the current rate. I mean, I currently support continuing the way that we do, but, that is an alternative so that you could basically look at that.
You know why we didn't go to the fee?
Well, it was explained to me when we did it, you have a fixed cost, which is the structure manpower, and a variable cost for the waste, because you don't know how much you're gonna pick up on any given day or week. Chris pays $21,000 a month for the trucks, whether they come back empty or come back full. Well, we have to have the money to pay the $21,000 a month, if it's a fixed rate. And everybody was always worried about, if too many people opt out of it, where are we gonna guarantee to have the money? But under the current contract, the way we're doing it with taxes, if you just use single-family houses, the lowest person that's paying for the same services we all have. We all have the service of single-string recyclables every other week, 135-gallon or 40-pound container. The cheapest is, I know I got it here, I wrote it down. $22.73 a year.
I don't think you can actually.
Mark, the reason we didn't go with a flat fee the last time, when we were going through and asking for prices from various companies, Alternative, Waste, and Republic, we had to guarantee them a certain participation percentage. If we got 80% or more of the people to participate in the program, we paid, just for the sake of argument, $200,000. If we only got 60%, it was $250,000 we had to pay. If it was 50%, it was $300,000. They wouldn't go below a 50% participation rate. Okay, we could not guarantee them that participation rate in going from a transfer station to curbside collection, because you still had waste out there actively looking at trying to get our people to go with them. You had Alternative out there actively seeking people in Granby to go with them, and we had Republic. So we couldn't say we're going to give Republic and guarantee them 80% or 70% or whatever percentage of the people to participate. That's why we went the route to say, let's put it through the taxes, have everybody participate. If they want to go with waste, they could pay an additional amount for waste to come in. If they wanted to go with Alternative, they could pay for an additional amount. But we were just trying to get people used to the idea of curbside collection at a price. Now that people are used to it, we may be able to look at it, but we also want to see what these companies are going to come in and say. Because they may still say, we have to guarantee them a certain percentage, we have to guarantee this, we have to guarantee that on a flat fee. And we can't guarantee that. That's the issue that we come down to.
Right. Now, I support what you guys did with the tax rate. I looked at all the numbers because my philosophy is, if you look at this from the research and the report, is 15% of the town residents prefer a flat fee. That's 15%. Again, we had 54.1% say leave everything as is. Everything's fine, how it's taxed, all of that. The challenge here is that you have, so if you look at it from the fairness standpoint, the biggest challenge here is you have properties, and again, you have different rationales in government for doing this, but you have properties that have no structures, that have no trash. So we were approached by people, but often people inflate numbers. So that's why I went out and I did the spreadsheet. So I'm not going to name individuals. Jay was told, hey, I'm paying $1,300 a year for taxes for all my properties. I've only got one. Well, when I calculated it all, it was $462 a year. It wasn't, but, again, certain people feel, hey, that's not fair. So when you're paying higher taxes, you want a flat fee because you assume that that's fair. But I also look at the community doctrine and say, well, people that are on fixed lower incomes, maybe that's not so fair. Because they don't still, maybe the reflection of them only paying $75 a year or $100 a year in taxes is fair to them because they're not, it's really hard to tell. To me, I started approaching the issue from, I know you guys had the discussion earlier about exemptions for people that don't have dwelling units, okay, or exemptions for business they couldn't qualify. But then that requires everybody else raise a tax. That requires that we go through some process of creating that. But if you look at the section, I calculated everybody that could potentially be exempted. There are 730 real properties that pay tax for no service, so that was $31,000 of the total revenue that we're generating. So if we look at this, basically we're looking at about 13 to 15% again. So again, it's back to that 85% of the people are probably being treated completely fairly or getting a great deal. And there's that 15% that are paying for something. But then when I calculated the averages, okay, I took the total amount of the property value for those 730, and when you divide the 31,000 by the 730, the average rate is like what, $20-something a year. So in the end, even though it appears to be inequitable, and from an absolute standpoint, yes, I'm paying money for something that I'm not getting a benefit for in that parcel. In the end, the amount of money for the average person that's paying that is not significant. We're getting a lot of dollars from states. We're paying taxes for this thing too. The other way that you could look at this in rationalizing how we approach it currently is that, in fact, there's an infrastructure cost for the whole town. And if you're a member of the town, you got to pay for that infrastructure cost, and that includes solid waste disposal. You're not contributing any tax, you're not paying for any bags, but you have a certain financial, fiscal it's sort of like paying for the schools. I don't have kids in the schools, but, I'm still supporting the new building and I'm still paying for that. But this will always be an argument. Not everybody is going to be, happy about that. But again, majority of the committee said, yes, we should stay with this. And personally, I just give you my personal doctrine, But other people will say, hey, it's not fair. I'm paying for something that I don't get service for. So that's just the way that it is.
As well as the infrastructure, I first paid $252,000 a year for the trucks and manpower for the public to travel the roads and pick it up. To me, that's the infrastructure that should be paid for, but that's the fixed price. He doesn't have any choice. He has to pay it. Well, if we divided that by our 2,236 single-family residents, not counting the rest, you get that same amount of money, it costs them family $120 a year.
But then you.
But then, what the problem is, we kind of mixed apples and oranges with the last contract. Under the infrastructure, we should not include any trash, because that's a variable cost. Where you included, everybody gets a free 35-gallon container. Well, what happens if you don't even use 35 gallons because you got land? You know what I'm saying? If we're gonna include it in the infrastructure, it should be strictly the fixed cost. There shouldn't be any variable cost.
So you're saying pay by the bag?
Yeah, he's basically saying pay for all your trash.
You pay for all your trash, pay for your infrastructure separate.
So you're taxed only on the infrastructure and everything else you're not. But I would say that in disagreement, I would basically say that what you did has more of a benefit because the townspeople looked at, okay, here's another tax, but at least you're getting one free container of trash, you know? Now you're saying, we still gotta pay for the infrastructure, and yes, our tax rate may go down, but that's also a position for a flat tax and exempting people. And to take that approach for only those properties,
Wouldn't they have to get,
we'd have to exempt all these properties.
but
on
everybody would
top.
have to have bags, or is that right?
Have to
Yeah.
buy back.
Yeah, everybody would have to, for all the garbage.
Nobody wants to do that.
Nobody, right. I think that politically, I think that that's a mistake. I mean, if you're gonna pay this money, people have a right to expect a certain level of service. you know. But other towns do that.
Yeah, like the town of South Hadley, they pay $65 a year for the infrastructure. But granted, they have over 6,000 residents, so it's less than ours, that's why.
Oh, they have 2.5 times our business.
Right, they have 6,000 dwellings versus we got 2,236 single family. But in addition to that, they pay $1 for each small bag and $2 for each green bag. That is not built into the 65. So on a given week, you don't put out any trash, you don't pay any money. And, or, like some of the elderly people said at the town meeting, I only need to put my trash out once a month because I don't generate much trash. Well, if we separated the household trash from the fixed cost, they can only put it out once a month and pay the $1.50, because 40 pounds is only $1.28. You figure the $64 per ton, and you put the 40 pounds into it, it's only $1.28.
Well, anyway.
Okay.
So let's move on to the recommendations. So the first recommendations, the first recommendation is we negotiate a new contract for curbside pickup. That's what we believe is in the best interest of the town currently. With Republic Service or other vendors interested in providing the service to the town of Granby. In light of the favorable cost structure for curbside pickup, we believe a 3 to 5 year contract is warranted. Okay. In the new contract, we would like to see the current level of service retained at an equal or lesser cost, and an expansion of contract benefits that do not add significant cost to the contract. Most committee members agree with the current volume weight standard for waste disposal, but not all. The current service standard motivates town residents to maximize their recycling efforts. Second point. In the RFP process, request an option for single stream recycling on a weekly and bi-weekly basis, as well as dual stream cycling. Part of that motivation was in a discussion that there is revenue generated based on what type of, stream you use because of the other pricing contracts. So we're just suggesting that when you negotiate the new contract, you have them lay those out as options so that we can see what would happen. Because, 15% of the people wanted more recycling. So what would be involved if they did single stream every week instead of every other week? Would that add a cost? How much would that add? Is that a benefit? So at least see what the numbers look like.
Why would you go to dual stream?
Town gets reimbursed for the recyclable materials versus single stream, the carrier that's picking it up does the sorting and he keeps the money.
Although as Arlene told us, the revenue currently being generated for the dual stream, the price of a lot of the recyclable, that they can use are down,
Yeah.
So there's that trade-off too, but that's the idea. Dual stream brings potentially some revenue back to us, but again, when you look at these options, then you basically make your cost-benefit analysis and say, is this truly a benefit or is it not truly a benefit?
I'd be concerned people would be less likely to recycle if they just
Yeah.
start separating stuff again.
Well, I wouldn't say that, Lou, because right now we do recycling every other week. If we were to recycle every week, we could do bottles, cans, and plastic the first week.
I understand that, but they still have to separate it.
every week, even if they're
Every
only
week.
picking it up that week.
Right.
The only other alternative is to do single stream every single week.
But everybody's used to, I mean, we can look at it, but, everybody's used to the single stream. I don't think you wanna make another change.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's your call. I mean, this is what we're,
That's,
But then you might wanna consider doing that every week instead of every other week, because the amount of recyclable material is more than that household waste itself.
you know,
yeah, but if we went to dual stream, remember, one week they can only pick up the plastics, and then the next week they have to pick up the
People
paper.
gotta figure out which.
And so you're still,
That's
you're
something
right
I
in the
remember
sense
when
that you gotta have more
it's supposed to be
containers, and you gotta separate those, and they gotta hang on to those, so.
The cost would go up for every week recycled?
oh, yeah. You're
Okay.
putting, another truck on the road.
Well,
No,
that's,
they do it
no,
with the
same
same
truck.
No, cause,
No,
but we do half the, doesn't it do half the town?
Yeah,
Doesn't-
one
Right.
truck-
Does trash
truck
one
is
week?
trash.
yeah, so
The
they
other
have
truck
different
has two
trucks.
compartments.
The one that goes on my street, he takes them both.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
He takes them both.
But I can't believe it costs less, or it costs the same. I just don't see how they would do that. It's gotta take longer to empty more trash.
They'd have to go to the VERP probably twice or 3 times instead of just once or twice. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so there'd be the
That's,
truck.
So
you
there
know,
might be
you-
some
you-
increase, but it might not be
Okay.
huge.
I don't know what it would end up being. You have to rely on.
So,
they're
I mean, now that we have the program established, we're just saying, look at that as an option, we're not saying that should be the
The,
solution.
the other thing, that you're not limited in the amount you can recycle. I mean, I've had
Right.
months where I've had 2 trash barrels full of recyclables.
Oh, yeah, I,
It's just not-
sometimes I've got it like stacked,
Yeah, I have like 3 sometimes.
you know, because,
And the biggest advantage that
because
you
we got
gentlemen have
grandkids and we had
today
parties and you got all the
is you have
materials.
2 years of Granby's specific data that you did not have going into the previous contract.
Right.
Okay, but again, that's just a recommendation to look at it, it doesn't mean that that's the right, we're not saying that what we're laying out here is the absolute right path, it's just that in our analysis, the committee sort of agreed that we should at least look at that. We would like to see you include one member of the committee on your negotiating team. We talked about hiring Arlene Miller as a consultant again to the negotiating team, and there's possible funding for her time through a technical grant. So we're suggesting that we look at that. And Chris, have you had discussions with Arlene about this at all?
One.
One, okay.
She worked for the state,
Yes.
Yeah, she works for the state DEP.
She works for DEP.
and she can do that outside?
Yeah,
What she does is part of her
Yeah,
job.
part of her
Technical-
job.
Through technical assistance,
Yeah.
she assists
Communities.
communities in meeting the DEP goals for a waste reduction.
Right.
right. So as part of that,
That's
she
not
can
part
be-
of her job?
No.
It's not part of her job, but in reality, she does, you know, through technical grants, it's the kind of stuff that she does, you know.
So she works for the state.
She works for the state, but towns can apply for technical assistance for assistance on programs like this. Because they want to ensure that contracts, as Chris said, meet state DEP goals.
So what does she do for the state?
Exceeds. They
Oh,
want us to really
exceeds,
exceed
right.
their goals.
Yeah.
What does she do for the state?
She works out of the Western Mass Regional Office. She's
The regional
She's
office.
part of the solid waste division or whatever.
The state DEP,
I just
Yeah.
had my hard time wrapping my head around the fact that she works for the state doing
She's
a
a
job.
state employee who basically is paid through technical assistance grants through the DEP program. Basically, she's a grant-funded employee. As long
Right.
as communities keep putting in that they need her services, she will be retained as an employee of DEP.
subcontract.
Basically, she.
right,
like
and
that.
she's
But
done this like
if-
forever.
If nobody ever applies for a technical assistance grant,
Then
she would be out of a job.
she would be out of a job, but everybody does because she's so knowledgeable.
So who do we apply for the grant to?
DEP.
DEP.
DEP funds her through a special program
Right.
that they get from the governor for waste reduction
Right,
purposes.
right. When she started consulting with our committee for year one, even though she's come to meetings in year two, she was funded through technical assistance grant. So she was being paid to assist the solid waste advisory committee in what we were doing. She was paid we did a technical assistance grant last year for her to work with the schools to improve the recycling, where we got more reduction, we saved some money in reducing container sizes, and again, she was paid for through a technical assistance grant to
So
do that.
that's part of her job. It's not
Yeah,
over
that
and
is her
above.
job, right, right,
Her job description is to help communities with waste reduction.
right, right.
That's really her job description.
That's right.
I just thought she was getting a state salary, and now
No.
over and above that, we have.
No, she's only funded through technical assistance grants.
That makes sense.
So she's always looking for work, you know? She's like a salesperson, she's like a consultant, you know?
Okay. Now
Okay.
I understand.
Okay. The next thing is that we're recommending that we establish an annual budget of $20,000 for special collection days funded through a combination of things, which are vendor contributions like the $3,200 and the enterprise fund and everything else. What we're looking at is right now, we built that number because right now, if we take our hazardous waste day, which last time cost us $4,800, we take our bulky waste days, there is some labor, so it should be in budget, although we believe it's break even, and we take our yard waste days, we're asking for you to at least create a budget, you know, that can be depended on, you know, so that we could pay for these special collection days.
Otherwise, we gotta come back to you every time we have a yard waste day, a bulky waste day, explain what we're gonna do, and you're gonna decide to allocate so much money out of the enterprise fund to do it. By using 2 years of history, we can guesstimate what it's gonna cost in the year, and we don't bother you, we just get it done, and then at the end of the year, if we don't spend it, you get it back anyway.
I automatically do that
Okay.
now. Because what other wages would I have in the solid waste enterprise fund except for special collection days? I put $5,000 in there for wages. I look at what the amount is gonna go up by for curbside collection, then I add in what I think it's been costing us for curbside collection. It's being done, that's not being done overtly, it's being done as part of the
Part of the whole program.
whole enterprise fund municipal solid waste program. Basically, that's what it is.
And maybe just the answer is, give Chris the authority to do it without coming before you guys every time.
He
No,
already
they
has,
have to approve the budget once a year.
Right.
It's done
Right.
as part of the budget approval
Right.
process.
And
After it's
that's
approved,
okay.
it's done.
Okay, so once we approve all of these days, they're all covered,
You don't have to come back.
and
every
you
time.
don't, and I don't have, so once a year, the committee would come to you and say, so in early part of next year, we would come to you and say, we have 5
In January, as part of the budget process,
we would
I
submit
need to know how many days are you planning?
for the special
Right,
collection
because
days.
what I do is I go back from 1, 2, if I have 3 years worth of data, and I do a 3-year analysis, what it costs us, and I do an average, this is probably what it's
Okay.
gonna cost us.
Because up
For the
until
next
this
year.
time.
Okay, well, the other reason that we asked for the budget is because we do believe, so I guess in the budget will come off, we still do believe that through the grant money or whatever, we'd at least like to get one more roll-off.
That has to be budgeted, and the last time I did it, I put $4,000 into the enterprise fund budget to buy that roll-off.
Okay,
David has to tell me, he wants another roll-off. If he doesn't tell me, I can't budget it.
okay,
Okay, that's
Okay.
the problem I run into, Joe. He talks to you and says, I need 2 more roll-offs. He doesn't say a word to me or to the board.
okay, so,
That's
wi-
the issue
Okay.
and that's the issue I'm running into. Maybe I'm getting a little testy on it, and I am.
okay,
But the issue is I'm not at you. It's the fact that he tells you one thing and then doesn't tell the people who have to put it into the budget to get that.
okay, so should we then, in January, after talking to him, include that as part of our overall plan request? Or do you need him to submit that?
It would be
separate?
nice if he would sit and tell me what he needs.
Okay. Well, he's just suggesting to us that, hey, I can do all this for like little or no cost in terms of disposal if I have another roll-off. I
You
mean,
should
that
be
was
telling
the,
Chris
that was
that
the
stuff
basic,
up.
that was the basic.
Well, what we were told last time was it was strapping his department, it was costing him money, He needed more help.
Yeah,
right?
and that's what I'm saying. He just-
That's what we heard.
Okay.
So-
Well, yes, he's gotta do that. I mean, everything here is basically extra time, overtime in terms of what we're doing.
Right.
But I do remember that, you know, for his other work, he wanted another half person, but it wasn't totally related to us. It's just that this is just an added thing and I'm not getting the added
But he was
resource.
talking specifically about a Saturday pickup.
Okay.
Right? That he needed his, people were getting tired and working too much overtime, they didn't wanna work.
You ask them, they love it.
I'm just telling you what we were
And-
told.
Each one on a Saturday that I go,
But-
how's things going? Oh, great, make
But
money today.
he would come to me and say, I can't get people to work the Saturday. It's all strictly voluntary, nobody wants to work, I
He
can't get
told
it
us
done.
in a full meeting.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what
Okay.
he does. That's what I'm saying, there's two different stories that come up, that's the problem
Okay,
that we run
well,
into.
maybe he was having a challenge because he was pushing his guys and they were doing it. Because I'll tell you what, when I was putting the schedule together for the spring, and I was walking the dog down Taylor Street, and the guys are doing some work, you know, one of the guys said, hey, so when are we going to do the next day? You know, and I said, well, I understand, you know, here's what our schedule looks like, but I understand that, you know, a lot of you guys don't really want to work. No, you know, just make sure it's, you know, but it all came together. So I think his biggest concern is he wants to be assured that any hours that are for what we do here don't come out of his budget somehow.
And that's
He
understandable.
already knows that.
Okay, I know, but
He
still.
already knows that
okay,
because
you
on
know,
his pay sheets, he
Okay.
has the solid waste
Okay.
pay line items already programmed in.
Okay.
So he already knows that issue. So
Okay.
I don't understand where he's saying he doesn't want it to affect his budget. It never has affected his budget.
Okay, so how should the committee approach this then? Do we just request the days and I go to Dave and make sure that he submits, because his concern is that when he, if I remember correctly from the last conversation, and it has been like 6 or 8 weeks ago, his biggest concern is somehow the stuff ends up coming out of his budget if he
It has
requests
never
it.
come out of his budget.
Okay.
It has never, ever come
Okay.
out of his budget.
Because he can go in and say, I'm requesting this for the bulky waste day or for the special collection day, and so you have a line item. That's his biggest concern, I think.
He
So-
knows that.
Okay. Okay.
I'm not going to debate it with you, Joe.
No.
I'm going to have a few words, I guess, with Mr. DeRoche.
Okay, well,
And find
all I'm
out why
saying-
he's saying that to your committee.
Well,
Because the issue is
because
everything's
well,
always come up.
well, I understand it, but I want to reframe the context again. Remember, this is in the context after the last bulky waste day of saying to you, hey, I was able to get rid of all this on Monday with my stuff, and if I just had another roll-off or two, maybe we could handle it all. We could actually make more money for the bulky waste day if we basically did it. I mean, that was the response. So maybe it's a matter of, you
And I
know,
was- and I was
maybe
under
it's a
the-
matter of how the previous week's workload.
And I was
went.
under the impression by the contract, we would get 130-yarder twice a year.
Okay, well,
Once in the spring and once in the fall. That was my understanding on the 30-yarder.
okay, well, our understanding was that, so we should check the contract, because our understanding was we were only getting one a year.
My understanding was we
Okay.
get 2 a year, once in the spring and once in the fall.
Okay.
To do with as we pleased.
In the first year, we didn't use one of them, that's why it was
Okay.
carried over.
Okay, so to address that, in January, we will submit our annual schedule for next year. You know, this year's schedule is basically locked in. The only reason we wanted an additional budget was some flexibility in case it appeared that real demand came in and we scheduled something and maybe we should have one more day or something like that. Because this year, we actually reduced the number of days. You know, okay?
What's your timeline, Chris, on the contract negotiations? We should move it on that, I would assume, because it expires.
I've been trying to set something up with Republic right now, just initiate the discussions. But I've also been in contact with
Waste management.
Waste Management. He wanted to know what we were doing. I haven't heard anything from Alternative, but I heard Alternative is out there, and basically it's a bidding war right now to get multi-year contracts.
So it might be a good time to negotiate.
But I want to talk to the board.
Yep.
and get direction from them.
That's why I'm wondering what the timeline was.
I wanted to start it in July, but we've been busy doing other things, so, you know, hopefully within the next couple of meetings, we can concentrate on it. Because we got to basically have the contract, the RFP put together, all we gotta do is update what we're updating.
Okay. And two more quick points. Again, we already talked about a recycling center, but again, the majority felt that because of the demand, that maybe the way to deal with the increase in bulky waste days was to get to a recycling center that would allow us to have our grass clippings dropped there and to deal with all this separately. So some of that added operational cost, and it would be an added operational cost, would be offset by the savings that we might generate from what we're currently spending to do some of the special collection days. I mean, you know, I don't think that's an absolute, but again, you know, that's something to look at to address that need. Because some people, I mean, I'll tell you what, you know, there were people that started bringing, they saw that we were doing an event, and all of a sudden I got people showing up at the last bulky waste event bringing their yard waste because, you know, they thought, oh great, I have a chance to get rid of my yard waste. I said, no, I'm sorry, this is bulky waste day.
Have you thought, just throwing this out there, any other location besides highway, just because I'm a little concerned with residential area and all
Yeah,
that?
well, I mean, the challenge with the other land is what other land do we have to basically do something? I mean, we thought about it more as a convenience because where he has all of the mulch that he chops up over there on the right, and I know you got neighbors there and that, you know, so we thought that, you know, because DEP said that, you know, as long as that was there temporarily, grass was on the ground or whatever, as long as it didn't last 7 days, I mean, we didn't have to get a permit and we could just go forward as long as we're not composting anything, but doing that basic stuff, we could do that. So that's part of the thinking there. But I think, you know, the idea of a recycling center isn't just those other traditional recyclables we think about. It's the yard waste, it's the brush, you know, it's that kind of thing. So that's part of the thinking there.
And part of your recycling, it's a revolving door and much. You get some people like Green Mountain Recycling, and, you know, what is it, Sullivan Recycling, it's over in South Avenue. Well, they go in there because they expect a certain amount so they can make money. Well, we have the parent teachers organization and McGuffey School putting up, as soon as we advertise what days we're gonna be recycling, 2 weeks before that, they put out a recycling notice. So, you know, it's almost, let them do it. If they're gonna do it, let them do it, and then we won't. Because they can't do bulky waste, and they can't do yard waste. But I'm almost looking at why be in the recycling business. Because Green Mountain Recycling said, well, we'll put a Conex down there so you can fill up and give us a call when it's full, but then we have to have a designated area approved by DEP that can sit there.
No,
Is it really worth it?
if it's picked up once a week, right, but if you have to wait till it's full.
No, they don't want to pick it up to the Conex.
Anyway, and we've already talked about the tax issues, you know. So again, you know, in summary, we believe you should do what you've been doing, try to tweak it, try to improve it, get the best, you know, price possible, see if we can expand services a little bit, but majority of the townspeople are happy. I mean, it's obvious that the system is running well, so I'm not a person to upset the apple cart. Again, from the majority standpoint, the current tax structure is satisfactory, but you know, you are going to have people that are always going to complain because they don't have a unit. You know, the exemption issue would be one way to deal with it. So.
I think you guys did a great job on this whole study. One thing that you might be helpful prior to town meeting, because we're obviously going to be another vote at town meeting next year, is to have just a summary on this available for people,
Okay.
so they can, you know, not just it doesn't have to.
Well,
be
we
just
still
in-depth.
publish this to the website, but you want it broken down.
Yeah, something
Right.
If they can
Well,
just pick
well,
up
the
a
other
town
thing
meeting and
is,
read, you
yeah,
know?
the other thing is, what I'll do is I'll forward to Chris sort of, I mean, there's a lot of worksheets on a spreadsheet, but I took the LA4 listing property classes, and then Carrie Ann listed out every parcel, and then I did all sorts of sorting. I recoded into ranges so you can see by each tax category, you know. So you have your land tax, you know, then you have your building, actually you have your land assessment, your building assessment, and then your total. And so I actually spent several hours, you know, actually at least a day, going through recoding that stuff and looking at all the numbers. And that's how I came up with the fact that even though Jay did his flat fee analysis with what it would cost for disposal, that basically, and his number was 200 and,
No, it's $179 somewhere.
okay, well then it's a little bit higher, so maybe it's now the 80 rule, but basically where I feel that 80% of the people are getting a good to great deal, and then you got that other smaller percentage because that's just the reality. They're big landowners and they're going to be paying for that unused property, you know. So
Yeah, but just a one-sheeter highlighting this,
yeah,
I think,
okay,
you know.
yeah,
Executive summary. type
yeah,
thing.
Yeah.
yeah. So I'll create an executive summary page.
And then this is going up on the website too, right?
Yeah, this is going up on the website, and then we'll create an you know.
Someday.
Well, hey, you know, everything gets published at the web. If you guys want to go back and look at all the history, remember it's all there, you know.
We're just shorthanded right now.
No, I understand.
Kathy.
Well, that's why I'm going to outline, because nobody has time to read, you
Yeah.
know.
No, that was
So you
very
need bullets and
Do
and
you have this in
highlights, so.
Do you have this in electronic form?
I'll just scan it, turn to PDF. We put them as PDF up on
Mhm.
the site.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say, maybe if he sent it to you, it'd be
No,
easier.
we'll do, I'll just scan it, turn it to a PDF.
Okay, and Chris, we had, this isn't on this subject, but just quickly to mention, we'd had the conversation about, because I'm on the housing authority, the housing authority for the state has come up with this whole solar credits
George
plan.
is already here.
Oh, so George is already,
thing on the
okay,
solar,
okay.
okay.
I didn't see him here, I didn't realize he
He
came here
was,
early.
he was here for
Okay, go
about
ahead.
a minute.
Hold on,
Basically, you said you're buying it from Charlton.
this is, this came up tonight just after George left, but it's
Okay.
actually for you.
Okay,
Comcast is giving a good deal for public housing.
oh, okay. So I'll take that to the Thursday meeting, but again, you know, they're pushing us to vote on this whole solar thing because we have a
We
deadline.
were told you're buying from Charlton.
Is that, okay, so he just said we're buying, okay.
Yes.
I mean,
Okay,
That's what-
okay.
that's what he
Well,
said,
then I
Joe.
guess we're all voting, I don't know, I was trying to get, you know, to look at the options, but I know, you know, time is running out, but I was the one that said delay, let's at least delay, we're actually having a special meeting Thursday.
Yeah.
Normally, we wouldn't even meet in August, but,
Yeah, you're stuck working with the state when you're on the
you know,
housing
yeah.
authority, so-
Well, that's what I wanted to, I mean, it's probably easier to work through the housing authority. You know, they've done that. It's just that everybody's doing 20-year solar deals, and, you know, it's like, if you miss the opportunity, you know, it's 20 years from now before you have the opportunity.
It's the same electric heat, that might be a good savings.
Yeah. Well, the thing that I didn't like, but again, since housing authority pays for it, was that we only get 25% of the energy credits that we generate, however that works, and 75% goes to the state housing authority to reallocate that to wherever they need it. Now, I guess since they're paying, because we have a budget, that was my concern, doesn't this give us an extra boost on our energy budget? But since the housing authority pays for everything anyway, it doesn't really matter in this case. It's just that since we were doing this deal, my thought was we want to keep as many, you know, organizations in town within what you guys have negotiated as opposed to, you know, everybody doing something. But
Just another aside on your solid waste, one of the drivers from Republic Services noticed that one of the customers was having some type of medical issue with, call 911, basically they say you saved their life by
Oh, wow.
noticing that. And,
good, okay.
calling the ambulance.
Another pro to it. curbside collection program.
Yeah, well, hey, look.
Curbside
I'm-
saves
look,
lives.
I don't see a major, I mean, maybe a long-term savings on transfer station, but I don't see any economic justification not to continue down our current path and just, bring in now that we have the experience, bring in the vendors and we negotiate, because costs haven't gone up that, I mean, even energy costs are down, you got labor costs, but disposal costs certainly haven't escalated or anything, so.
When you add up the mileage and the gas that you burn
Oh, yeah.
going to the dump every week, it adds up over a period of time, really. It's,
Well, that's one of the biggest costs these days, we got 63 miles of road.
yeah. And I lived about as far away from the landfill as you could, so it was a
Mhm. Okay,
expensive trip.
okay, very good, thank you, guys.
All right, Joe.
Yeah, thanks.
Jay, thank you.
Yep.
What else you got?
We got some correspondence. We went over to landfill. We got a thank you from our Colby, is that?
Colby Forbush.
Colby Forbush. And we got a request from a resident who's a contractor to,
Yep, I already saw it. He's got-
so
There.
I think we should respond to him somehow. I don't know that it's practical, but do you
Well-
want me to talk to him?
Yeah.
I know him pretty well.
Do you know?
Yeah, I know. pretty well.
Tell him,
That-
first of all, it's not for sale, second of all, we can't sell it, so.
Well, yeah, I think there's a lot of issues that he may or may not be aware of, but I'll talk to him anyway sometime this week. Well, not this week, next week, but I'll just try and get a hold of him and tell him I'll talk to him sit down with him next week. Motion to adjourn?
Second. All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.